Welcome to West Flanders. This is the Bredene Koksijde Classic. 191.6 kilometers. A sprinters classic with start in Bredene and finish in Koksijde. Beautiful weather today. Spring is just around the corner here in Belgium. Although, there's hardly any wind. And especially with a passage through the Moeren. The place there in Western Flanders that you might remember from Gent-Wevelgem. Geraint Thomas surely does remember it from Gent-Wevelgem. But today, probably not enough wind to create some echelon fun. Well, we hopped across the border. It's actually, I think, 50, 60 kilometers from where we were racing yesterday in Bredene. So we will see a lot of the same names on the start list. This is the honor roll with Pascal Akkerman twice, Tim Merlier in 21, Hodge, Halversen, Baska, Meersman, Mesketch, and Kenny de Haas. Up until 2018, this race was called the Hansamer Classic. And from 2019, this is now Bredene Koksijde Classic. We're looking at images of the junior race there. They have one more lap to go with Alex Segaert and Warre van Geluwe, two riders of the development teams. So a lot of Soudal Destiny and Soudal Quickstep. Lots of Destiny, Soudal Quickstep. This is the team presentation with local man Carl van Nieuwkerken, the host, and also Timothy Dupont, also a man from West Flanders, which is, well, a bit of the heartland of Flemish cycling. It's a province all the way down in the southwest of the country, bordering France. Alex Koolman here, he's been in the breakaway quite often recently. He won himself 1,500 euros in fuel, in a fuel card. He already said he's going to share that around with his teammate. The Bingo Wallonie-Bruxelles team in their lovely bright yellow kit with some fast riders, some smiles on the podium as well there. All the riders being introduced to the crowd. Edward Boons van Hagen, he's back. The team missed two riders. Dries van Gestel, he didn't take the start. He crashed yesterday. And Jason Tesson is already out of the race, so that team is down to 4. Yeah, the man to beat today is the Belgian champion. 5 wins already this year. But this man, he's won it twice. Pascal Akkerman of Team UAE. Together with yesterday's winner, Juan Sebastian Molano. And then the start around 11 o'clock this morning with the smaller third category teams. On the first row we have Tarteletto Isorex, as most Belgian races, but also a Volker Wessel cycling team and the YouTube sensation turned pro cycling team Tour de Titema Unibet. And they have one of their riders in the breakaway here on the cobbles of Kemmelberg. It's Tomasz Kopecki, the Czech rider who actually lives in the Netherlands. So we have a fully Dutch-speaking breakaway here because two riders from Tarteletto, Andreas Schoeman and Thomas Joseph, who actually lives in the town of Kemmel. And then we have Timo de Jong, the Dutchman there in the blue of Volker Wessels. This is the second time up the infamous Kemmelberg. It's not very long, about 400 meters from this side, but it's 8.5% average. And these are the counter-attackers, two riders of Entermarché with Dries de Poter and Laurens Rex, Tobias Lund Andersen and Brent van Moer for the Lotto Destiny team. It's now changed to Andersen is now changed to Cedric Beulens, I see on my screen. So 2 riders for Entermarché and 2 for Lotto Destiny. According to my information, they just attacked from the peloton, but the breakaway still has a considerable lead on the peloton. The course today, we start in Bredene and then we follow the Belgian coastline. Newport, very famous battle there in 1600. Then we go to the Heuvelland, so the place where we also race Gent-Wevelgem, and then back to the coast for 3 local laps around the Koksijde of 11.5 kilometers through the dunes and along the coast for, as is mostly the case, a sprinters festival. Well, we still have 88 kilometers to go, so that is 2 hours of racing as the breakaway is actually in the town of Kemmel. And these are our chasers. They are 3 minutes 38 behind our leaders. Welcome to the Bredene Koksijde Classic. My name is Jose Bain. With me today is Brian Smith. Brian, this is, if you look at the course, the most important part of the course, but sadly there's no wind.
There's not a lot of wind, and the wind is, it is out there, is actually helping them. And I think this is why we're seeing, the attack from these teams. Right in the middle of this course today, we're getting, all the climbs, and, they're trying to use that to their advantage. Like you said, you'll say that this normally ends up in a bunch finish. Well, it has done so many years. But, a couple of teams I was looking at have come here without a sprinter that could probably beat the likes of, Milano or Merlier or these type of riders. But Intermarché do have, a good enough sprinter in Gerben Thijssen, already a win under his belt this year. So, but they've decided that they want to try and kind of split things up and use the hillier part of this route today to do that. And they've got the help of Lotto Destiny. So it's just a little bit of spice in the mix now, because the gap did go over to about 5.5 minutes to the group in front. But with this counter-attack, it's been squeezed down a little bit. But there's still a long way to go, 87 kilometres. And I very much doubt that the attacking riders, the counter-attacking riders will have much success. But when you come into a race like this, you have to look at your best options. And by the looks of things, the team here of Lotto Destiny, their best options could come from making it hard enough, or having, when you consider they've got Kampenaerts, Boelens, Van Moor, Schwarzman, Selig, Schlock, Vermeersch. Strong team. But when you've got Tim Merlier on the form that he's on at the moment, how can you win this race? And by the looks of things, Lotto Destiny are just trying to make it hard as possible, to maybe try and kind of split things up. But unfortunately, they don't have those cross winds. The wind that is there is a southerly, and it's going to help them all the way to the coast.
Yeah, we did have a little bit of a headwind in that first part, so I do expect a little bit faster second part of the race. We're about halfway. Last year the race was exactly 5 kilometers longer, but they now just went under that 200 kilometer mark. Yeah, it's the smaller teams, actually the 3 continental third-tier teams that made it to the breakaway. And Brian, that kind of tells me that, yeah, the chances of a breakaway in a race like this are 0 to none.
Yeah, but it's important for a lot of these teams to be in the breakaway. It's on TV. It's a big race. So, as we say quite often in commentary, it's not about trying to win the race, getting riders in the breakaway. A lot of it is down to just making sure you get something from this race. And for the teams that are there, it's very important to get that kind of publicity on the TV screens. But who was going to go into the breakaway? Because this race, it kind of meanders along the coast at the start, but then it goes inland, round the climbs, and then straight back to the coast again. So, and like you said, predominantly it was going to be a kind of headwind out, kind of tailish wind back.
We do see some groups out on the road there, so a little bit of echelon action going into the town of Loker. This part of Flanders, West Flanders, the Westhoek, was hit the hardest actually in the First World War. They were just caught up behind one of the major rivers here in Belgium. There's a lot of fighting going on here, also by Commonwealth troops. So if you drive around here, you ride around here, you see these cemeteries basically everywhere with Australian flags and New Zealand flags and British, Canadian, etc. It's a region of Belgium with a lot of history, and also of course the place where next Sunday, not this Sunday, but Sunday next week, we're going to race Gent-Wevelgem. The peloton seems to be getting back together as we have 85 kilometers to go. 129 riders took the start today. It's not a super big peloton, but of course we have a pretty important race coming up tomorrow. And also some of the pro teams are racing the Tour of Taiwan at the moment. You can see highlights every morning with Jess Cox of that race on Taiwan. So yeah, the races are coming thick and fast at the moment. There's French Cup race on Sunday. So yeah, just 129, but we do have 7 World Tour teams on the start line, including this one, Intermarché 1T. We have UE Team Emirates here, Soudal Quickstep, Alpecin de Koning, Arkea Samsic, Trek Segafredo, and Team DSM. That is 6, Jose, not 7. And then basically a lot of the pro teams. One of the teams was actually selected to start here, the team from New Zealand, Bolton Equities Black Spoke, but due to the fact that they had some COVID cases in the team and some crashes, in Drenthe, Paul Wright broke his collarbone, they had crashes in Nokerkuze with Matt Bostock. Yeah, they just didn't have enough riders, Brian, to race here, and they applied for all sorts of races, the team from New Zealand, and they basically got accepted into all the races they applied for, and yeah, now they're short on riders.
Yeah, there's being ambitious and, you know, looking at reality, but, you know, it's nice that team exists. You know, it's always nice when you have a, you know, professional team coming out of the likes of New Zealand. I wish them well. There's a couple of riders in there that I know particularly well, Mark Stewart being one of them, the Scot, turned Kiwi, but look, it's at the end of the day, it's tough for everybody these days. Sponsors are not knocking at the door, and if they're limited in numbers, they can't do all the races. But like you say, they're riding quite a lot of good races at the moment. But this is an important race for a lot of the Belgian teams who have already recognised that. But you know, with the way that this race is going, it's very interesting to see that you know what Lotto Destiny and the Red are trying to do here. But you can see that Soudal Quickstep, you know, have got this in hand and don't want this to be kind of running away from them, because this group in front it's not that far down the road, 40 seconds, and it's predominantly flat. So if you look at this route today, you've got opportunities in the hills. We just come off of the Kemmelberg there, and that's what caused a few of the splits. But it's all come back together again.
Yeah, talking about sponsorship, some really sad news from the UK. The 80-85 team, formerly known as with SunGod Canyon, powered by SunGod, is sadly no more. They had to close shop basically overnight, is what team owner Tim Elverson writes on Twitter. He sees no other option but to shut the team's doors with immediate effect, and that also has to do with a sponsorship issue. We've discussed this yesterday, Brian, about the women's tour resorting to crowdfunding. We see that with the road series. You explained that it's really difficult to get a race on the calendar in Britain at the moment, and now, yeah, one of the teams from the continental scene in Britain, with some pretty good riders on their roster, mainly British riders as well, has to close shop. And I do wish everybody involved the best of luck with this huge blow, and hopefully in the future there's a way to bounce back from this.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. You know, we talked about the events yesterday, and actually I responded back to British Cycling and last night, and I got a response back. So I will endeavour in trying to work with them about maybe trying to get this event on. It was originally going to be a 2-day event up in Argyll in Scotland, which would have been brilliant, a little bit of a boost, with sponsors all kind of already lined up. But British Cycling thought that you know, the single track was you know, for health and safety reasons, you know, they weren't going to sanction it. So let's see where that goes. But at the end of the day, with a team folding in Britain, it's always very difficult. You know, the Tour Series,
Yep.
you know, is not there anymore, because that was the kind of bread and butter. That's where they got a lot of publicity. You know, that was run by Sweet Spot. Sweet Spot again, struggling with the women's tour. You know, there's a lot of companies, especially in the cycling trades, are going through some tough times, some really, really tough times, the industry. And we're looking at sponsors outside of the industry. So cycling, especially in the UK, you know, cycling is booming in the UK still. We're still producing some really good riders, but we don't have the sponsors, we don't have the events, and it's sad. You know, we will get through this. We'll get out the other side. But at the end of the day, you know, it's going to be very difficult for all these teams involved. One of the riders, the Scottish rider Finn Crockett, has already been in contact. I'll call him after this, and I'll try my hardest to get him in a team, because I believe in him, and I think, like you said, there are a lot of good riders in there that you know, deserve to be in a team, but whether we can get them in a team, it's a different story. So look, it's a difficult situation. Sport is never easy, whether you're competing in it or, you know, for team managers to get sponsors and things like that, it's not easy at all.
This is the breakaway with Timo de Jong, Andreas Schumann, Thomas Joseph and Tomasz Kopecki. Just over 3 minutes on the peloton and 3.5 on the 3 chasers. Yeah, this actually is the man who lives closest to the course, Thomas Joseph. This is Schumann, his teammate is Thomas Joseph. He actually lives in Kemmel, which we just passed, so probably a lot of family out. This is also one of the smaller teams in Belgium, the Tarteletto Isorex team. They've been around for a long time with Peter Bouwens as their team manager. And this is a new team on the block with this rather outrageous paint job on their Cannondale bikes. But yeah, I wouldn't ride it myself, Brian, but it's a nice combo. It really stands out. And Tomasz Kopecki, the former cyclocross rider, finds himself in that breakaway. He almost was world champion in the junior world championships in Valkenburg until his chain dropped, and Ben Schulet went away with his one of his 2 junior world titles. He lives in Leiden, which is about 30 minutes south of Amsterdam, and comes from a cycling family. His brother Matthias rides with the Novo Nordisk team, and his sister Julia rides with the AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep team, currently racing in Normandy. He was born in Darlington, by the way, because his father was a professor in political science and had a job there. And then they moved to the Netherlands, but he speaks fluent Dutch, so this entire breakaways, they can understand each other pretty well. Looks like our chasers are now down to 3 units. One of the riders of the Entermarché-Wanty team caught by the peloton, and yeah, the peloton will just be around the corner there. It has grown in size again. These chasing groups, that little split that we had in the peloton is now over, and in about 20 kilometers, 25 kilometers from now, we enter the Moere, the infamous open part there in Belgium, where yeah, a lot of these fights, a lot of the trenches actually of the First World War were, and it became a barren wasteland, and it still is quite open. A lot of the towns that were there before 1914 have never returned. Alpes in de Koning at the front there, they have a familiar face back in their ranks with Jonas Rickaert, the lead-out man who was part of many victories after over a year off the bike with 2 surgeries on his leg artery. He is finally back in the peloton and hoping to prepare for the Tour de France, be part of that race and launch Jasper Philipsen to a win or 2 or 3 or none. Back from the West Flanders countryside here, the 3 counter-attackers with Laurens Rex, Cedric Beulens and Brent van Moer, almost racing in the Moeren, almost caught by the peloton. Brian, can you explain this little counter-attack, because it seemed rather useless to me?
You never know if you don't try. I was explaining it a little bit before. The Lotto Destiny team, they've got strong riders in there. They can go from distance. They've got Kampenaerts, Beulens, Van Moor, Schwarzman, Selig, Schlock and Vermeersch. But there's nobody that really kind of stands out as a sprinter that can really kind of match the likes of kind of Tim Merlier and the likes that are in this race. So I think they used the Kemmelberg the last time up there to try and kind of shake things up, to try and get a counter attack. They were joined by a couple of riders from Intermarché thinking along the same lines, but Intermarché have got a good enough sprinter in Gerben Thijssen. So it's just a case of, how can we win this race? And Lotto Destiny have just said to me that they very much doubt that they can win this race from a bunch sprint, and they want to try and make it a little bit more difficult. And that's the reasoning why they've gone on the kind of counter attack. It hasn't worked. It hasn't kind of really split the peloton, but you never know unless you try, because they rode hard. If it had split up quite considerably over the Kemmelberg and a group of 30 or 40 got away, it's a little bit easier to win from a group of 30 or 40 than to win in a group of a bunch kick of over 100 riders.
They didn't bring their sprinter Milan Menten, who has been doing a lot of races recently with top 5 places and a win in the past 2 weeks. But yes, they had the same tactic at Lotto Destiny when we were racing Nokere Koers on Wednesday, just to attack and to make life a little bit more difficult for the other teams. Just had a race on this same course of the under 23 riders. The youngster Coast Challenge is the name, and that was won by well, I think it's a nightmare for non-Dutch speakers, but there we go. Warre van Geluwe of the Soudal Quickstep development team. He was in a breakaway together with Alex Segaert of the Lotto Destiny development team, and they stayed away and became first and second. So a win there for Warre van Geluwe, the man of the Soudal Quickstep development team. A new team on the block because, yeah, the trend, Brian, at the moment is to sign young talent as soon as possible to make sure that you get them and can sign them and can move them up to your World Tour squad. So it looks like almost all the World Tour teams are now aiming for a development team. And Soudal Quickstep didn't have one until a while ago. They did have one in the past with Klein Constantia, with Enric Mas, Julien Alaphilippe. But then for a while, Patrick Lefevre said, yeah, I'm training these riders. And then they move to bigger teams and I get nothing in return. Just what you said yesterday in Grand Prix des Nains. So they have a development team again for Soudal Quickstep. And yeah, won a race today.
Good, and the fact that, you know, a lot of teams used to have development teams. Quickstep have always had that kind of development team, and you know, Jan Hurt was part of the development team a way back, but they only took on 2 riders, and that's the problem. When you've got a development team and a World Tour team, there's not a place for everybody in that development team. So they select 1 or 2 riders to step up, and the others, you know, they're already developed, so, you know, other teams snap them up. BMC did the same thing with their development team. So it's always a difficult one, and some teams now, like you say, are deciding with the numbers that they've got, taking on 3, 4, sometimes 5 young riders. I think Ineos have got some young talent and trying to bring them through, and yeah, they're learning, you know, right from the start. And the good thing about it is, and we talk about this in many commentary, that because of the training aids that they've got, you can see the talent in the riders, the numbers. I know a lot of people are obsessed with numbers, but the numbers tell you know, a nice story. If someone's good enough to kind of take that step up, it's because, you know, back in the day, it was, you had to win races, you had to win a few races, and you had to be, you know, kind of spotted and taken on. But if you're in like one of the smaller teams, continental teams, or developing as a rider, then you're doing the numbers, then, you know, teams will look at you and give you that opportunity. And, you know, it's a good time. We talked about teams, you know, ceasing, especially in the UK now, on the news, but, you know, it's a good thing to have for a lot of these young riders. There are big opportunities for them. If you're good enough and put the commitment in, there's some good opportunities for you. It's the same. I just had a message from Scott Johnson. Callum Johnson rides for Caja Rural, and he did that pretty much on his own through lockdown. Went over to Spain, trained hard and committed himself, got himself a pro contract with Caja Rural. Unfortunately, he had a little bit of knee problem just before Christmas there, and is on his way back. So haste you back, Callum. And yeah, but it's about commitment. You know, you don't have to have the big numbers when you're young. There are other pathways through to the pro ranks, and definitely Callum has been one of them. It's that, you know, sheer determination has got him to where he is now.
Yeah, also Hugh Carthy went through the pro ranks through Caja Rural, and
Yep.
he ended up on the podium of the Vuelta in the end. So really good. A lot of these young British guys also ride in France at the moment with help of the Dave Rayner Foundation. But yeah, if you're a climber, Spain is of course a fantastic territory to get some miles in, to get some experience as well. Back to our breakaway of 4. They basically attacked straight from the gun, these 4 riders. The 2 Belgians of the Tartaletto Iserex team. Thomas Kopecki, the Czech rider, born in the UK, currently living in the Netherlands. And Timo de Jong, the man of the Volker Wessels team, former winner of the Tour of Flanders for juniors. And I've been looking through some of his results, and yeah, he seems to be struggling a little bit. He was part of that COVID generation, so when he turned to the under 23 generation, a lot of his races were actually cancelled, but had some good results on the national championships, for example. Really great rider, Timo de Jong, coming from the province of Zeeland, which is all the way down in the southwest of the country. So he's not actually that far from home, although I probably think it's still a 1.5 hour drive from where he lives all the way down to this part, because yeah, this southwestern part of Belgium is really, really, really far away.
Well, I live in the south.
Not from the
London.
UK. Not from the. Yeah. It's closer to you than it is to me.
Yeah, I live in the southeast of London, in Bromley, and if I was to go round to Heathrow, it would be an hour and a half.
Looks like a mechanical problem here. Waiting for the team car. As we see some action at the front, a lot of riders there for Soudal Quickstep. They're here with mostly the same team as they had in Nokere Koersen on Wednesday. That was won by Tim Merlier. So Joseph Czerny, Yannick Steimle, Martin Sricek, Bert van der Bergen, Stan van Tricht and Ethan Vernon. And especially Bert van der Bergen got a lot of praise by Tim Merlier for doing excellent work. They've known each other since they were, I think, 13, 14 years, went to the same school, Tim Merlier and Bert van der Bergen in West Flanders. And they really get along well, and the partnership so far has proven to be successful, not only in Nokere Koersen, but also in the Middle East, where Bert van der Bergen was also the lead out there for Tim Merlier. Bottle duty here for Michael Schwarzman, a man who has been a pro for a long time, and this is the kind of job that he does in most of the races, getting bottles, getting musettes, riding at the front of the bunch and getting some champagne when his teammates win. And so far, with lots of destiny, it's been a good season.
It has. I know Schwarzman, Michael, for quite a long time. I was with him when he joined the NetApp Endura team way back, and remember meeting him at the training camp, and said we're going out training for 5.5 hours, and he told me that he hadn't done 5.5 hours in his life, and I said, don't worry, we'll break it up. We'll do an hour and a half and do some sprint training, and we'll do this and do that and break it up. So he came along, and the last part of the day was sprints up against another team member, so they would roll along and do 6 sprints against each other, and he was laughing at the end. He totally enjoyed it, because in his mind he was thinking about doing 5.5 hours of hard training. Mm-hmm. When you break it up into different areas, he was still laughing at the end and enjoying himself. So I think he learned a little bit that day.
Yeah, Team Emirates, of course, they have double winner Pascal Ackermann here, but of course they also have yesterday's winner, Juan Sebastian Molano. Who do you think they will play today? It's a bit of a wild guess, isn't it?
I was thinking about that just when you're talking there. We've got Soudal at the front here, DSM in the black, Alpecin, De Koning were riding a little bit. They've kind of disappeared now. You've got UAE. And I'd actually written down Milano and Ackermann in my pad here. I really do think that Ackermann, double winner of this race. The fact that Milano won yesterday, I think he might be that little bit fresher. He might be given the nod today. So if I was UAE looking at, because that wasn't easy yesterday, that was a hard run in towards the finish, and perfectly finished off, but I think that little bit of fatigue with Ackermann not riding yesterday in Deneen, I really do think that UAE will be going with him today.
I do agree with your analysis. Yesterday's race was a pretty tough one, not only physically, but also mentally. You know, you have to be focused the entire time. There were a lot of crashes, and if you make it, well, in one piece to the finish line, you're not only physically drained, but also mentally drained from all
But at
the
the same
excitement
time,
on
as
the
you'll
road.
say, it's when you've got two sprinters and one's got that confidence already, 2 wins this season, two nice wins, it's nice to have. But also when you come back to a race and you've won it twice, you've got kind of good sensations. Doesn't matter if you're maybe not 100%, you are a double winner, and you come to this race, you know how to win it, and that gives you a little bit of confidence as well. So I think the German sprinter Ackermann, who's not possibly had the easiest of years last year, and hasn't really had the best of starts for this year. He's been there and thereabouts, but I think for the best of the team, if he can try and get a win here, and if he does get a win, then it's going to lift his confidence as well.
Yes, Sam Welsford is another rider we will be looking out for. He beat some of the top sprinters already this season with wins down in Argentina and also on Belgian soil. Won the peloton sprint in Drenthe last Sunday, but yeah, there were 4 riders in front of him, so that doesn't really count. But he is one rider to take into account, and I do think if we have one challenger for Tim Merlier today, it's going to be Sam Welsford.
Yes, I think DSM have ridden very well this year, and the sprinting he's had, I do really think that Welsford is the type of rider that if it's a super fast sprint, I remember commenting last year in the Tour of Turkey, it was a bit of a chaotic sprint, slightly downhill, very fast. He does rather well there. Same with San Juan this year, that he likes a super fast sprint. I'm not too sure this will be super fast. I'm talking about over 70 kilometres an hour. But I think he'll be there and thereabouts. But I think the man to beat is definitely Tim Merlier. He seems to be on really, really strong form.
Cedric Beulen's one of the attackers now, all the way at the back of the bunch for Lotto Destiny. Victor Kampenaerts just ahead of him. And back to Vegard Stakelingen. I think I still have to ask somebody who speaks Norwegian how to... every time I think I have him in a race, it's like, oh yeah, I should have asked. Well, this is of course the place that everybody has been looking forward to, the Westvleteren Abbey Beer. The amount of breweries where you can actually have Trappist are down to, from the top of my head, 6 in Belgium. One recently closed shop.
Will it just go to the top of your head?
I do, because I read about it. My husband is a beer connoisseur, so I do get, but he hates this one, by the way. But the Trappist is a kind of beer where you have to have a monk present of the Trappist order. They do have one in America as well, for you if you want to. There's one in Austria, and most of them are in Belgium. But yeah, due to the fact that the monastical order is, well, quite literally dying out, not only this monastical order, but most of them, they just run out of monks to oversee the production. But this beer, the Westvleteren, has been announced beer of the world for quite a few times actually, and you have to make a reservation to get a crate or 2, and then report to the door of the abbey, and there you can pick it up. That was the case in the past. Maybe they have a more modern distribution system nowadays. From the top, it looked like a rather modern production facility. But yeah, Abbey beer, like Trappist beer, that's actually quite a rare thing at the moment. 65.2 kilometers, that means that the Moeren, the windswept part in the Westhoek, is coming up. But we already saw there is just not a lot of wind. We do have a little bit of it, but not the amount of craziness we've seen in the past in this race or in Gent-Wevelgem. Yeah, one of the many cemeteries in this region. At the start of the First World War, Belgium said that they wanted to stay neutral, just like the Netherlands. They kind of respected the Netherlands' wish to be neutral and kind of walked all over Belgium to get to France. And a lot of the First World War was actually fought on Belgian soil here in West Flanders, where you have had all these trenches, basically the same horrific warfare we see around the town of Bakhmut at the moment in Ukraine, with trenches and these cemeteries. And of course the gate in Ypres is something to remind us of the atrocities that happened here between 1914 and 1918. A lot of museums here as well, and sadly a lot of cemeteries that are being kept up in pristine order by the a lot of them. I don't actually know, it's still the Commonwealth War Graves Committee, but they're taking very good care of it and do remember the sacrifices made every year. This is Peter Bouwens, the team manager of Tartaletto Isorex. Just like you said, Brian, for these teams, these are the most important races of the year. This is their Tour of Flanders, to be on national television for 2 hours in a breakaway.
Yeah, he came up alongside. There's not really a lot you can do. There is a bit of encouragement and things like that, but the gap has come down. They've lost about 3 minutes, but it has kind of strung out a little bit. We may see a little bit of movement when we get through onto the other side of this town. Like you say, it does open up. The wind is blowing a little bit, maybe not enough to split, but definitely enough to cause a little bit of concern. But the breakaway are doomed, we know that. But you have to try and keep on encouraging them as much as you can to try and stay out there, because like you say, it's very important for these small teams. And this is how they get their sponsorship, by getting themselves on television.
Well, quite a joyful name to name your church after, this event in the Bible, the beheading of St. John the Baptist. Got some lovely red door there on that church. Yeah, we do have some more beer info for you, Brian. Apparently there's 5 Belgium Trappists left. So not 6, but 5.
You're talking to the wrong man. I'm not really a beer man, although
I know.
I'm going to my local brewery tomorrow. I'm going to Western Brewery to kind of test out a few beers there, but I'm not really a kind of big beer drinker.
Neither am I. Yeah, those Westvleteren beers that we just talked about, you can indeed just order them via website, so that is how modern they are already, but then pick them up at the gate of the Abbey or have them home delivered. And there's 5 Trappist breweries left in Belgium. Westvleteren, of course, Orval, which is in the Ardennes, Chimay, also in the Ardennes, Rochefort, in the Ardennes, and Westmalle. So thanks for that from the original beer biker to British beer enthusiasts I met last year in Gent-Wevelgem. Hope to see you again this year. Would be nice. It looks, Brian, there is a little bit of anticipation on some wind there at the front.
There is, and that's why you've got Tim Melia right up there. Normally the sprinter would, sit a little bit further back. Ackerman also with the Team UAE just on the left-hand side have moved up. DSM are just behind UAE in the black, so there is enough. If someone wants to put the pressure on, it could split. I don't think it will. I don't think with 61 kilometres to go anybody will take advantage. They can do if they wanted to, but what it does is they put a lot of riders in the wind behind, and you can see that Tim Melia, the Belgian champion, is getting pretty much an armchair ride. The riders moving up on the left-hand side of the road, they're in the wind. So it's about, putting your team towards the front, maybe not pushing on, but some teams will have to put some riders in the wind, using up their energy to protect the riders that they're looking for.
This year, the national championships in Belgium will be in West Flanders, in Isegem, which is actually not that far from where Tim Melia wins. So maybe you can go for his 3rd title. It does include a loop around the Kemmelberg, just like we have in this race, and then they go back towards the east, so not the west like we do today, but back to the east with some local laps around Isegem, which is just north of Kortrijk, so deep in the province of West Flanders, which is the heartland of Belgian cycling. A lot of races take place here. Gent-Wevelgem, Dwars door Vlaanderen in Roeselare, in Waregem. Of course, the Tour of Flanders. Well, it's a little bit of East and Western Flanders going on, especially with the start this year in Bruges again. The finish just across the other province. There's a little bit of rivalry between East and Western Flanders, but yeah, most races and most, I think, cycling fans a lot of them are actually from West Flanders. Well, 60 kilometers, 2 minutes 16 as we cruise along the roads here in the Westhoek, with still 4 leaders up the road. We've got 2 riders from Belgium in yellow, Andreas Schoeman, Thomas Joseph. 1 from the Czech Republic, but actually from Leiden in the Netherlands, Thomas Kopecky. And Timo de Jong is the Dutchman from the province of Zeeland, from Goes, in the blue and black of Volker Wessels, one of the long-standing Dutch continental teams. The gap was well over 5 minutes. In the past 40 kilometers, they lost about 3 minutes, but normally the peloton will let them swim just a little bit more, Brian. I always wonder who decides when the chase starts. Is that for the team managers? Is that somebody in the peloton? When somebody gets nervous, when they think, okay, now we do have to start the chasing?
Normally, it's the sports directors behind instructing the riders what to do. Sometimes a race captain on the road will maybe take the lead on it, but predominantly it's the sports directors that are deciding. So, in this case, the peloton are in control of the breakaway, and they'll remain in control. And it's often that the peloton will dictate the pace of the race. But what we've seen in the last kind of decade is some of the breakaways thinking smart about it, and trying to kind of foil the peloton into a false sense of security, and kind of playing with the peloton. It doesn't happen too often, but sometimes it does, because a lot of the time the peloton will sit back, and hopefully others will use, and if others use, especially in sprint days like today, if teams use up the riders, then they've got less riders towards the end for lead out and to help out. So teams will sit back, allow other teams to do all the racing and the riding at the front, so that they've got more riders to help out at the finish and others. So it's all these kind of, they say cycling's like chess in Wales, and it's exactly like that. Watching it here, you see 4 riders in the front, the peloton behind, but there's a lot of things happening that you can't really kind of see with the eye. So, for instance, there are other sprinters in here, but nobody's really wanting to ride. We talked about Intermarché with Gerben Thijssen. Well, they started with a man less today, but they put 2 riders in that chasing group. So, they're not prepared to ride. So they've decided that they'll try and infiltrate maybe that counter move, which they did. It didn't work. And so their job today is just to make sure Gerben Thijssen is looked after. And I don't think it'll be a lead out. I think it'll be more just get him on Tim Mellier's wheel more than anything. So there's a few teams kind of sitting back. I was a little bit disappointed, because I did a lot of commentary last year, and a lot of the races, Sasha Wiemus was in it. He was riding for Top Spot Vlaanderen. Well, he's out the race today. I don't think he's had the best start for his new team, Human Powered Health, and he really was a rider that kind of stood out for me, a rider that was getting up in a lot of the kind of sprints towards the end, developing as a sprinter. Not maybe as well as Olaf Koy did last year, but he was certainly developing. And when he went to Human Powered Health, he may have a little bit of sickness. I don't really know, but I was looking forward to see his trajectory moving forward. But it doesn't seem that he has done. But we do have some really nice sprinters in here, but a lot of them are tend to be sitting back. You're talking about the likes of Halvorsen as well, Christopher Halvorsen of Uno X. Uno X are a team, the Norwegian team, that normally don't mind riding at the front, take control of a race. They always have done right from the start. But Halverson is a rider that will be looking at possibly getting up there, but Uno X are deciding to sit back. So there's a lot of things happening, but most of it, to answer your question, Josie, is coming from the team car behind.
So it's still the team directors controlling the riders there, Brian.
You need, because behind you, they'll be watching. There could be a delay. They could be watching local TV. They could be, watching GCN. So they will be watching. But some of the times you're in the team car behind, if you do have good pictures, and it's not often you have brilliant pictures, but sometimes there's in a delay. So you really rely on. You see a lot of the time, some riders will be speaking into the race radio. They're not just speaking to their teammates. They're just giving that information back to the team car, especially when there's attacks. There's attacks going, a lot of communication, and that's what you do with riders. It's about communication, because if that sports director is sitting there, he's able to determine what the riders do, rather than wait. If you wait 30 seconds, a minute until it gets back to the car and then react to it, it's sometimes too late. So they're trying to give information back to the team manager behind, and that team manager has to decide what really kind of happens. But in that car behind, you don't often see what's happening at the front of the race.
Yeah, I had a talk with Tim de Klerk about that, that he's also the one controlling who can go away and who cannot, because he is on the first row. For example, when the Tour of Flanders starts, he's on that first row. His race starts straight from kilometer zero, while the rest of the peloton might still have some jackets on. And he decides, okay, that is harmless and that is not. And yes, Lotto Destiny has made a little move there. If you try, you never know, is what Brian Smith, the philosopher said earlier, and that is exactly what they are doing right now.
Well, they tried on the hillier part in the middle, so they've looked at this race and thought, right, the middle suits us, and we have to use this to their advantage, and the wind suits us as well. So they came up just as it was starting to look as if there could be some options here. But one thing it has done is, it might not break the field up, but what it has done is Joseph Cherny, who's been doing a little bit of riding at the front, it looks as if his day might be over, because it looks as if he's been distanced. So it's just adding that little bit of kind of nerves. What Lotto Destiny and the Red are trying to do is trying to kind of break up the peloton. They don't have a sprinter in here that is capable of going toe-to-toe with the likes of Tim Merlier. So they'll look at their options. They'll look at the hillier part, which they did. They failed there. They'll look at putting the riders in the gutter. Well, they're doing it a little bit towards the front, but that's why Tim Merlier was there. If the wind was blowing in maybe a little bit of a different direction, a bit stronger, we would see echelons here. But they're thinking all the time, and a lot of this stuff is coming from, information being sent back to the car. The sports director deciding, right, we're going to try this here, but it's not breaking up. And I think it takes the kind of captain of the team, if it's Campanarts, just a shout, guys, stop it, and maybe, try another time, try again before the finish, because it just looks as if the wind direction is not quite in the right direction to split the peloton.
There we go, 18 kilometers an hour, so just over 10 miles an hour from a southerly direction. They did try, but sadly today it's not to be.
But they are trying to win the bike race. That's the good thing about the positive, is they're trying different things. They're not going to sit back and wait for a sprint. UAE have already shown that. DSM in the black, Soudal, Quickstep. They're three teams, by putting a rider on the front, are quite happy to put this down to a sprint. But there has to be some other teams in there that wouldn't be happy with this situation, because let's be honest, if we come down to a bunch sprint like this, the sprinters such as the Ackemans, your Milano, Welsfords, Marechko, Thiessen, and Merlier, it's going to come down to them. So how do you win a bike race? And it's actually nice to see a team like Lotto Destiny try different options.
Yeah, there was an interview with Jasper de Buist in Belgian media, and of course there's been a lot of talk about the state of Lotto Destiny. Jean Le Lange, the former manager, left the team, and now they're led by Stefan Hulot and Kurt van der Wouwer. He said that was all a little bit overdone, overcooked in the media. But yes, they are in a great place at the moment. Of course, the most important goal is to get back to World Tour. But the first option to get back to the World Tour is 3 years from now. So the most important thing to be able to race. Oof! Big pile up here. Oh yeah, that UNO-X rider is pretty unhappy with the situation. That is Tord Gudmestad. Oh, and another crash for Victor Kampenaerts. He went down twice yesterday, and now he seems in a lot of pain. What a horrible few days for Victor Kampenaerts. Twice in Nokerkoerse, that was on Wednesday, and now he's on the deck again, and it looks like he will not be able to continue. Tim Merlier, he probably needs a new bike now.
Yeah, I think this must have happened towards the front because so many of the kind of Lotto riders, Alpecin Deconic, Tim Merlier, the Soudal riders, they were all towards the front. So we may see this again, but it did look as if it was towards the front. But there's no call for what the UNO-X rider does. You don't put your hands on another rider and push him away. But it does look as if Victor Kampenaerts has come off the worst here.
Yeah, you can actually hear him screaming as Florian Vermeers tends to him. New mic there from Iljo Keizer for Tim Merlier.
And he rode it up, didn't he? Because often you get the case, you see them waiting there. And what happens when there's a crash? All the cars that are already lined up in the right-hand side of the road, they have to stop. And the quickest way either is to run or ride the bike up and give it to the rider. So a nice touch there from Iljo Keizer in the car. Jumped on Tim Merlier's spare bike. It happens towards the front. Just look at the right-hand side here. It's all bunched. Oh, it's halfway.
It might be the ridge of death there in the middle of these concrete slabs. But I think it was one of the riders of Arkea going down first. Ah, oh, poor Victor Kampenaerts. This must be a collarbone.
It's just a moment ago they were all at the front and then bunching up, and you get caught out there.
Well, it's up to Joseph Czerny, who found himself at the back of the peloton, to pace Tim Merlier back. We also have Senne Leijsen here for the Alpecin, the Koning team. The gap is not really that big. And yeah, what are the riders at the front going to do when the big favorite is out? Well, UAE is taking full advantage.
They'll continue riding and say, well, the breakaway's still in front and they're entitled to keep on riding. And, we say that. There's no love lost in professional cycling these days. And they'll just keep the tempo high and make sure that Tim Merlier has a harder ride back. I still do think that Tim Merlier will come back. He's got enough teammates to possibly help him. But it's just giving him that little bit of a harder ride to get back into this peloton.
Vegard Starkelingen is the man at the front. Also racing here is Ivo Oliveira, Ryan Gibbons, Sjoerd Baks, Mikkel Bjerg. And the two sprinters, of course, Sebastian Molano and Pascal Ackermann. There they are, the two together with Ackermann in first and Molano on his wheel. We have Soudal Quickstep at the front. Also Jonas Rickaert, if I'm not mistaken, all the way at the front. The man who came back after over a year off the bike with some femoral artery surgery, not once but twice. He had almost given up on cycling, but he pushed on and he's back, and he has the Tour de France on his mind to be back as the lead-out rider for Jasper Philipsen, like he did in the past with Tim Merlier so successfully. We have the national champion from Israel getting to the front as well.
I think the Soudal Quickstep Christmas card going out to UAE is just
no, it's off the list.
We see it.
Yeah, it's cancelled. No flowers. No flowers for them. Yeah, a breakaway of 4. The gap is now under a minute for Goeman, Joseph, Timo de Jong and Kopecky. Not related, by the way, to Lotte Kopecky, who does have a Czech name but is not Czech. Beautiful pedaling style there for the man in blue and black, Timo de Jong, and more action. Well, if there was ever chocolates or flowers or even a card sent to Soudal Quickstep, I think Patrick Lefevre might be fuming in front of the television as we speak.
He will do, but like we were saying, we just saw the breakaway there, that there was a full wind coming from the left-hand side, and teams will take advantage. We were thinking that the UAE Team Emirates have got 1-2 sprinters here that can possibly deliver, but it's always the case of you have to keep on thinking, you have to take advantage, and definitely UAE Team Emirates are taking advantage here.
We have Louis Barret, Anthony Delaplace in this group, but most importantly, of course, Tim Merlier with two of his teammates and one of his former teammates behind him, Senne Leijsen. If we look at the list of riders who went down, we of course identified Tim Merlier and Victor Kampenaerts, but also Hugo Hofstetter went down again. I wonder what the state of his bike is after this crash. Because there was an Arkea Samsic rider going down first. It might as well have been Hofstetter.
Yeah, we don't know. I couldn't see that. Just we've seen one replay. I believe that Bianchi were going to come out with a statement about that.
It's a PR nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't the best day for them yesterday, but at the end of the day, they're just developing products, and surely their R&D should have been tested. But when you come down twice hard like Hofstetter did yesterday, then we see the flaws. So hopefully they'll remedy that moving forward. But not only have we seen that UAE Team Emirates are decided to really kind of push on here, a lot of waving behind, a lot of pushing and shoving.
Another crash,
No, it's all that kind of pushing and shoving and moving, and you can see it. It's like a wave effect from the front. But both the Lotto Destiny, this is what they wanted. Although they had Kampenaerts on the ground, they're probably worse off of the riders that were on the deck there. This is what they want. They wanted to try and split the race, so they're not going to hold back. This is what they're challenged right from the start, and this is why they've gone on the attack once, twice, and for the third time they're helping out UAE. They want to split this race up.
The abandon of Victor Kampenaerts, yes, he was in a lot of pain, and I do think that is probably a collarbone and the end of his Classics campaign. Let's hope it's not as bad as it looked. Maybe it was just a popped shoulder, but I do wish him well. It has been a terrible week for him. 2 crashes in Nokere, and now another pretty bad crash here in Bredene Koksijde. And he was looking forward to one of his favorite races in Waregem, the Wednesday before Flanders, Dwars door Vlaanderen, the race that he so badly wants to win. But I'm afraid it's not going to happen this year. The peloton, despite that crash, is still quite big. I think we have at least 80 riders still in this part. Our breakaway of 4 is just a few hundred meters before them, just 35 seconds left for our leaders. And this is a nice overview of what the convoy looks like in a bike race. The situation at 46 kilometers to go here in Bredene Koksijde Classic. We have our breakaway, our original breakaway of 4 with Andreas Schoeman, Thomas Joseph, Tomasz Kopecky and Timo de Jong. Just 31 seconds. A huge pile-up just before with Victor Kampenaerts, who has abandoned the race, but also the top favorite, Tim Merlier of the Soudal Quick-Step team. And, well, UAE Emirates, the entire squad there evaded the crash. And, Brian, they went full gas.
They did afterwards. They were joined by Lotto Destiny as well in the reds. And, this is racing. It's another close one from Milano there. It's always a huge danger, but, I'm not too sure that Tim Merlier will get back. He is one of the favourites. He's on super form at the moment, but the question for me is, when I saw the riders that were involved there in that crash, I thought it has to have happened at the front, but when I actually saw it, it was 3/4 of the way back. So it just goes to show you that we were talking about Tim Merlier getting an armchair ride, being looked after. Then all of a sudden you relax a little bit, touch a wheels or whatever it was, down you come. But he didn't help himself because, in my book, he was too far back. When you get potential wind like there was there, you have to stay near the front.
We're going to have a replay of the crash. It's actually a rider of Arkea Samsic going down there, and also Victor Kampenaerts himself. So it looked like these two riders crashed first back in, the second half of the peloton. Yeah, a lot of frustration.
Yeah, it was Arkea Samsic, it was down first, but it did look as if it was the centre of the peloton, and I can only think, you see that ridge in the middle of the road?
Yeah.
You get a wheel stuck down there, nothing you can do about it, and down you come.
The Valley of Death is what it's called. In Dutch, it's called a bitumineuze voegvulling. That's that's what it's called. But it's basically big slabs of concrete being crudely welded together. And sometimes it's just an open space between them. And with bicycle tires being so small, despite the fact most of them are racing 28s at the moment, I think 25, 28s. If your tire gets stuck in it, it's hard to come back from that.
No, if you go down there, it's so hard. I don't think there's any way. So it did look as if that Arkea Samsic rider was in the centre of the peloton there, and just took out, unfortunately, many riders there, including the favourite Tim Merlier. But you have to say, why was he sitting so far towards the back? Yeah,
it's being a sprinter is not only being there in the final kilometre, but also making sure that you get to the finish line in one piece. Almost over and out for our courageous breakaway of 5. Timo de Jong glancing over his shoulder, former winner of the Junior Tour of Flanders. The 23-year-old. Together with the man from Tour de Titema Unibet, a new team on the block. The man who was second at the World Championship Cyclocross in the Netherlands, in Valkenburg, behind Ben Tulit. And won a whole bunch of races that year, Thomas Kopecky. And now is a bike racer on the road. Well, good fun for the Team UAE at the moment. They're led by former pro Fabio Baldato. He's behind the wheel of the team car. We do have David Dekker here, the sprinter of Arkea Samsic, at the back of the bunch. But still, no sign of Tim Merlier at the moment, Brian.
No, I don't think he had two riders with him. You can see that Lotto Destiny have kind of sat back now. They've realised that, you know, they want to kind of save a little bit. They're depleted in numbers now, so just let UAE Team Emirates ride on the front. They have now, in my eyes, got, you know, two of the favourites for this race in Milano and Ackermann. So I would be very surprised at this speed if Tim Merlier actually got back to the front of this main group.
Yeah, this is also always the danger part. You might remember this this place from the epic edition of Gent-Wevelgem. I think it was won by Paolini that year, but of course we most remember it from the complete echelon chaos going on these roads, and riders even ending up in the water, including Geraint Thomas. Is that Tim Merlier's group just on the top of our screens, Brian? What do you think?
It's hard to see, but he was behind the convoy. He was a little bit further back earlier. Whether he's had a little bit of assistance in the convoy to come through it and get to this back group, we'll have to kind of wait until the helicopter pans back. But Tim Merlier was actually behind that drop group.
You can see from the water, there's a little bit of a tailwind action going on here. Going to look through the convoy, yeah, it's a little bit blurry there behind these four riders. They know it's over. We have the breakaway gone at the moment, and the peloton down to 60, 70 riders maybe, with the biggest favourite out of this group.
Yeah, they see the length of the convoy. I didn't see anybody in the convoy. A lot of motorbikes towards the back, but probably a dozen riders coming up. I really don't think that Merlier would have made it there. But even they're struggling to come up towards the front. So the breakaway now caught for the first time today, going on the attack right from the start. UE Team Emirates in the white, black sleeves, really in control here. A lot of teams kind of sitting back. We see Trek Segafredo on the left-hand side in the red, 36.5 on the left-hand side in the yellow helmets as well, just moving up. So it's settling down a little bit. It's still this group of about a dozen riders just struggling a little bit to kind of close the final kind of 10-15 seconds.
Making our way to Veurne. There it is on the horizon. One of the bigger villages here in the Westhoek. And also the home of Tom de Vriend, number 4 last year in Paris-Roubaix. And also racing here for the Q36.5 Pro Cycling Team. Looks like we're staying mainly outside of Veurne. Making a turn here with Sjoerd Boks. We have Ryan Gibbons there. We have Oliveira, Stakelingen, Mikkelbjerg, Akkerman and Molano. Well, if that is the group with Merlier, like you said, Brian, they did have a lot of assistance from the team cars, but it is indeed the group with the Belgian champion. There he is in second position on the wheel of his teammate. Looks like he is going to get back to that first group. Well,
he was a long way back there, and didn't think it would be possible. He's now only got one rider left, but you know they're just struggling to close this last bit, but you know a lot closer than what I expected.
They keep on giving the team UAE. We also have Alpecin de Koning there. Not with their fast man, because yeah, a lot of the fast sprinters are of course racing Milan-San Remo tomorrow. In addition, with a pretty serious tailwind apparently in the final 100 kilometers. So that might be a change of tactics for some of the teams, but more about that later. We're going to see the crash again. It's the Arkea Samsic rider and then Victor Kampenaerts falling straight onto that shoulder.
I think looks like he gets stuck in that ridge there, the Arkea Samsic rider. Wheel stuck there, lent to the right, took out Kampenaerts. He was one of the first riders down, but this group now with Tim Merlier, I'm really kind of surprised that they haven't sent anybody else back, because he only needs maybe 1 or 2 riders to go back. He's asking for some support to the others to try and come back, and he may get some help, may not. He's trying to encourage others to try and get back to the front of this race. 21 seconds, it's kind of pushing out a little bit. They are really struggling to come back to the UAE Team Emirates led peloton, but I think he had 1 or 2 teammates in that front group. Whether they've come back now doesn't look like it. He's got 1 rider there. Uno X are helping a little bit, but he was trying to cajole the likes of Q36.5 to kind of help out a little bit, but not an easy ride today for Tim Merlier. Obviously using a little bit of energy here, and while there's a lot of riders sitting in this peloton in that bubble there, getting an easy ride.
Alpecin de Koning are also joining the action at the front of the peloton. They're racing here with Aiko Bastiaans, Lionel Taminiau, Jonas Rickaert, his first race in over a year, Marechko, who is of course a fast rider. I don't think he's ever won in Belgium before, Edward Plankaert, Sennelijse, and the winner of the under 23 edition of this race last year, Jensen Plowright. That is the team of Alpecin de Koning, and the man going down for Arkea Samsic was Anthony de la Place, the French rider, so not Hofstetter. This is the, I think, the airport of Oostende, mainly used for charter flights to sunny destinations. Yeah, he has to do the work himself. This is going to cost him in the sprint if he comes back. it's going to be really, really difficult. He has one teammate, but the one teammate that he had, Brian, was Joseph Czerny, a rider who was already at the back of the peloton after the work that he had done at the start of the race. So he was probably pretty cooked already.
I saw one, maybe two riders. He's got a rider there with him, but he needed the help. That's why he was back talking to the other riders. Come on, guys, you know, ride. I'll ride if you ride. It's always the case. And he has to do a little bit of riding. Sometimes you have to do it. You can't always sit back. So if he's telling the others, look, if you guys ride, I'll ride. And that's what he's doing at the moment. But I'm not too sure if it's Soudal Quickstep have got any riders left in this front group. They did. There's one there on the right-hand side. For me, why is he here? Why isn't he coming back? They've sent one rider back now.
Bert van
What about the
Leerbergen.
other rider?
Bert van Leerbergen is now with Tim Merlier. Another rider just dropped back to this group. UNOX are also helping out. The team from Norway and Denmark are here with Frederik Dversnes, Stian Fredheim, Tord Guttenstad, Christopher Halversen, Louis Bendixen and Martin Orianstad. We do know that Hofstetter did abandon. I thought I saw the bib number of Anthony de la Place, but in that crash going down first. But yeah, it might be another broken bar from Hofstetter after that crash. This is a very interesting cat and mouse. We are approaching the finish line. According to my road book, the finish line is just around the corner from here. And then we have the 3 local laps. And we've seen in the past that it is possible on the local lap to hold a little bit of a gap. In the under 23 race, for example, with 3 laps to go, the 2 riders at the front, Alex Segaert and Barre van Geluwe, they had 1 minute and they stayed away with 15 seconds to spare. Uh-oh. Is he going to change back on his bike, I think? On his regular bike, Tim Merlier. That's a risky move, Brian, to do that right now.
He's got no choice, I think. And he will get the use of the convoy to come back to that group he was in. And it does look as if there's not a lot between both groups. So it does look as if they're going to make the junction. And lucky for them, a couple of riders have dropped back to kind of help them. But that was an interesting run in towards this finishing lap with Alpecin de Koning now helping out UAE, but at what expense? A lot of these riders trying to come back. Tim Merlier, is he back to this group after that kind of mechanical now? I think he may well be, but you know, is that taking a little bit from his sprint? So yeah, because of that crash, we've got a little bit more of an interesting 3 laps here now.
Just a handful of seconds there for that group with Tim Merlier. I do assume he's still in this group.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that. I don't think he's
I didn't spot him. I didn't see him.
No.
I didn't see him. So there must have been not a planned bike change there. It must have been like a flat tire or something to do that at that moment. Yeah, and now we go on to the local lap, which is a lot of twisting and turning through the dunes here. Let's see if the camera is picking up on Tim Merlier. Possibly even like a lot dropped from that group, from the peloton. The camera is also looking for him, I think, the director. But this is the entire. There he is. Oh my! This is game over, Brian.
Well, I thought that the last time that we were getting the time checks of 1:26 back, and then obviously they appeared. I do think that some of the riders from the crash did get a little bit of help from the convoy, as often happens. He's in the convoy now, so I don't think it's completely over for Tim Merlier. But you have to think that the energy he's using inside the last kind of 50 kilometres, he may pay for it later.
We're racing through the streets of the Bonne Koksijde, one of the coastal towns on the North Sea coast here in Belgium. These are the villas. On the coast you find the, well, rather ugly apartment buildings. contrary to, for example, what we do in the Netherlands, where there's a lot less high buildings on the coastline. The Belgian coast didn't have any restrictions on that. There we go. The North Sea coast, low tide, as you can see. And of course, these tram tracks that we know from the sadly disappeared race, Driedaagse de Koksijde. They got some red seals there just before this education centre. And look at the pace in that peloton, Brian.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's full on, but definitely there's a bit of tempo about it. It's all kind of strung out, and it's going to be difficult for anybody to come back. I do believe that chasing group are now back, so the peloton has swelled in size. A few of the ex-riders have been kind of stuck in that crash, kind of down the back of the peloton. Now we'll want to kind of try and move up. But this is what I was saying, getting a little bit of support, a little bit of help. Tim Merlier looks like he'll get himself back, but at what cost? How much energy has he put into this this chase and the double bike change?
Restaurant Normandy in the boat, the kitchen brigade there. The menu of the chef today: asparagus, half a lobster. They have duck, they have cod, and they have a dessert of cheese or rhubarb. 74 euros. It's not too bad, including the lobster. It's really giving everything. Some other team cars are helping him out here. This is Team Koratec from Italy, the team of Charlie Quarterman.
See, if he was doing this to his own car, then the commissaires would be unhappy about it. But we do get these situations in races that everybody in the team cars behind knows that if one of their riders were in this situation, then you help out. So it's a little bit of an agreement behind that. You always help a rider get back, especially if they've been involved with a crash or a mechanical. Different if they've been dropped. But Tim Merlier, although he's in the cars using the motorbikes, but why? Why is there no teammates now that he's close? Why is there no teammates just come back to get him up the last little bit? Because normally it's a lot easier for one rider to use the cars, but just at the last little bit, you see one of the riders just there. Just help him, because he'll get back on. And by the looks of things, he does have a teammate there, but looking back, and then he'll get him on the wheel and then move him up.
That's Yannick Steimler, the German rider. Well, pretty serious chase there by Tim Merlier, but he's back in the peloton, and now he has to make his way up, because if another crash happens, he finds himself behind that crash yet again. But the top favourite is back in the fold. The top favourite for this race, the 2021 winner, Tim Merlier, is back in the peloton after a pretty serious chase. And he's got exactly 27.5 kilometres now to recover.
Yeah, that's all he can do. It's always, in this kind of twisting and turning, it's always going to be very difficult to recover down the back. So the quicker that he can get up into the kind of main body of the peloton, he will recover before the finish. But it's how much effort has he put in? He's had two kind of chases now to come back. He was doing a little bit of riding behind. The adrenaline will be high, but Steimler just has to kind of pick off a few riders, moving up a little bit, because that will make the difference. If you're down the back here and you turn the right hand corner here, the riders at the front are accelerating while you're braking, and it's just that kind of elastic band effect. So if he can get up to that where that kind of bubble is in about 20 or 30th, the quicker he can do that, the more recovery he'll get.
Alpecin, the coding team, UAE, Emirates are the teams at the front. on our local lap here, the 11.5-kilometer lap that we're going to do 3 times. That is one of the, well, not real, but plastic figurine of the way in the old days they used to fish for shrimp. They would just take the horse onto low water and then get the shrimp, because that is one of the main products here of the North Sea coast. Shrimp croquettes. They also do them with cheese, but in this case I prefer the not cheese ones. And shrimp croquettes in towns like Bruges, for example, but also here on the coast, they are absolutely delicious. Really small, a bit, yeah, brownish pink shrimp they have in the North Sea here. It's unlike the pink ones that you find in the supermarket, or the real big gamba ones, or langoustines even. So they're absolutely tiny, very intensive, labor intensive to peel them, but they are absolutely fantastic. And that's how they used to do that back in the day, with one of these big, bulky Belgian horses, and just go out onto the coastline.
Well, one of the big, bulky Belgian horses are starting to move up on the left-hand side, the Belgian champion, bloodied knee. So they're starting slowly but surely to bring him up, and you can use this slightly wider road to let that happen. I think by the nature of the way that UAE, Team Emirates and Alpecin Deceuninck are riding now, I saw just a couple of kilometres ago, they know that Tim Miller is back, so there's no real kind of push on to make it as hard. They know that he's not had the best runs in the last 50 kilometres because of that crash. They're just hoping it's taken or sapped a little bit of energy from him. But we'll have to wait and see, because I still do think there's enough time here for him to recover to try and win this race.
For Jonas Rickaert, this is his first race back in a career that he thought had ended after that.
Has he been given the wrong bike?
Yeah, it looks like a too small one.
It's too small. He's been given
but at least he's smiling again. He's smiling again, taking it easy.
It was too small.
Yeah, it's. I think it's too small. He's a pretty tall lad.
Might get another one. No, third time lucky. Tell you what, third time lucky.
How many bikes do we still have? Yeah, his bike is not in first position, as you can see. It's in the middle of the bike rack.
Just check the name on it. Just check the name.
It's not the most aerodynamic bars that he has on them. But in the interview today in the Belgian newspapers, Jonas Rickaert said today is all about having fun again and being part of the pro peloton. I have no idea what I can expect from this race, but after thinking himself that his career was over, but it was his wife Katrijn who actually got him back motivated also again, and he's back in the fold. Alpecin Deceuninck at the front right now. They have Jensen Plowright. It would be nice if the man from Australia actually gets a chance to go for the sprint here. But this is great for Tim Merlier, Brian. The pace is relatively okay at the moment.
Yeah, it's settled down. They know that he's back. I feel a little bit for the Deceuninck, the Alpecin Deceuninck mechanic there. Might have been his first race back, making a little bit of mistake there.
Maybe he thought, like, who are you again? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I wouldn't give him too much of a hard time, because everybody has a bad day. But definitely he had a bad day there of not getting the right bike to his rider there, but eventually got it. Shake of the head from Rijkaard, and he took it quite well. Others may not have.
No, he's just happy to be back, and it's about building form now and get ready for races to come. He's not going to do the Flemish big races, not Flanders, not Roubaix, but prepare for the hopefully for him, Tour de France. One of the best lead-out riders in his day, when he was in top form with Jasper Philipsen and with Tim Merlier. Tim Merlier all the way back at the front again with his childhood friend Bert van Lerbergen and Ethan Vernon. Twice winner in the Tour of Rwanda. We do know that Hugo Hofstetter has abandoned the race. But they still have a fast man in David Dekker. And he is still in that little group of 4 AG2R riders, Arkea Samsic riders. AG2R are not here. So the man who went into the big mountain of Menor yesterday, Stan de Wulf, he got himself a shower and hopped on a plane to Milan to do Milan-San Remo this weekend. But he was mostly very disappointed, Brian. His legs were great, according to his own Instagram post. But he could laugh about it. Oliver Nassen, in a comment, had, of course, the reaction that everybody had: shit happens.
I was going to say, it's, one word we can't say in air, and, I didn't say it yesterday.
Oh, sorry.
But I'll let you off with that one.
Different culture. It's a pretty common word in the Netherlands and Flanders. I'm sorry if anybody took offence. I
restrained myself yesterday not to say it, but it was obvious, and then on social media it was just all over the place. But yeah, it's one word that I wasn't going to mention, but I'm glad you did.
A little bit of a cultural difference here. This is one of the things that I'm always afraid that is going to happen, that I'm just going to say something that's pretty common over here and not so common in the English language. But this is pretty harmless one. Back to the town of Koksijde, and especially that last turn onto the finish line. It comes at about 250 meters from the finish line. Of course, it's going to be a big fight to get into first positions with your teammates, preferably with one rider still in front of you for that last finishing straight. We're going to take a look at that one as it comes up very soon now. Nice little stylized lighthouse there. And this is that finish straight. A really wide road. And then the barriers happen as we go into the finish straight there. And of course, it's all about being in position right here. With 300 meters to go.
Met opnieuw dus ook Belgisch kampioen Tim Merlier. Die post heeft gevat in dit peloton. We gaan de voorlaatste ronde in. Dus zomaar deux tours de la fin. Two ronden aan stilte nu.
We're in the penultimate of the local laps here around the Koksijde with a pretty nasty moment there. With still Team UAE Emirates at the front, a job there done by former Norwegian champion Vegard Stakkelingen. And a nice little replay of the faces at the front. With Sam Welsford in the fold. We haven't discussed him all that much, but he's in 4th position there in that DSM train. The man with the tattoos, no gloves there. Ethan Vernon here. And all the riders, well, the riders left, because we have seen some abandoned, including Victor Kampenaerts, who, according to Wielerflits, is off to hospital right now. Is there anybody, Brian, who is going to try something? We've of course had that breakaway of 4 with the 3 smallest teams on the start line. But trying it on this course,
I don't think it's possible. I don't think one rider can do it. It'd have to be 5 or 6, and I can't see that happening. So we've seen that the team of Lotto Destiny have tried on 2 or 3 occasions to try and get a kind of counter move, get some action going in some of the crosswinds. But now we're in this finishing lap here of 11.5 kilometres with the blue jerseys of Alpes in Konig and the white of UAE Team Emirates. They're not going to let this go. If the reason why DSM, by the looks of things, aren't riding is they don't have a lot of numbers towards the front. Sam's Welsford has got 3 riders with him, and you need these riders, as many as possible, because it does get rather narrow just before the finish, as we see, and then it opens up just before that kind of last right hand corner. So they don't have big numbers for the lead out, and I doubt that Soudal Quickstep have big numbers as well. So I think a lot of teams will be just hoping that the UAE Team Emirates keep this together. Of course, you did ask the question, will there be opportunities? As long as this tempo is kept this high, it's going to be always very difficult to try and jump away and stay away. If anything, something may happen in the last kind of kilometre or two, but as we all know, to do that, you're going to have to ride at well over 50, 55 kilometres an hour.
Is this all the teams are just gladly letting the work be done by Team UAE and just sit on the wheels? Is that some sort of payback or something?
It's not exactly payback. They have got numbers and they've already shown. They've got confidence in the sprinters that they've got. They've got a rider that's won twice. We've seen a few teams kind of moving up now towards this right-hand turn. We may see something from Uno X, but I think it's going to come down to a bunch kick here. And the question is, how much is Tim Merlier taking out himself with the chase? He was involved with the crash and then he changed his bike. But it's always going to be very difficult. If someone was going to make a go of it, it would be pretty much on this part of the course next time round.
X, they don't have their super sprinters here like Rasmus Tiller or Alexander Kristoff. They do have Christopher Halverson, who seems to feel at home in his new team. Of course, the former under-23 world champion. He might get involved in the sprint. Maybe now with 19 kilometers to go, Brian, we can go over all the teams and look at the fast man. Apart from Akkerman, Merlier and Welsford, who are the other riders we are looking out for today?
Well, that's if they're still here. I marked a few riders down. Emil Leipens, Trek Segafredo, but they only have 3 riders to be able to help, and then we're starting to, we've already mentioned Halverson there, and it's then Malacelli for Bingo. You've got Monzan from Total Energies, Einhorn for Israel Premier Tech. I think we've got the kind of main ones here of definitely Welsford, Ackerman together with Milano, Merlier, Marechko, Gerben Tyson. I've not really seen him, Gerben Tyson, so I'm assuming he's there. I've not had a visual on him. I don't know if you have.
No, not yet. I did see David Dekker, who's also a fast sprinter, to take into account today. And then, sadly, we don't have Milan Menton here. He's already doing a lot of racing. Jonas Rickaert, he managed to get back to the bunch there after his not 1, not 2, but 3 bike changes.
All at once.
But he's back in the peloton, Jonas Rickaert. At Alpes in the Koning, they might go for a sprint, but UAE Emirates, they're pretty confident, just like they were yesterday, actually, in Grand Prix de Denain in the north of France. And it paid off with a rather marvellous win for them. And just like you explained a little while ago for the people who are tuning in a little bit later, it can go both ways. They can go for Ackerman because he's proven, but they can also go for Milano because he's got that winning vibe.
The thing is, there can't be any indecision. They already know who they're going for today. Mentioned it with a team like Arkea Samsic always going with 2 or 3 sprinters. Sometimes DSM would do exactly the same, but I think coming into that type of finish, you have to really think about it. And you've got to remember that Milano was you know, he's a good sprinter, but he was more of a kind of lead-out man in the past. He was kind of lead-out man for Gaviria when he was at UAE. So I really do think that, you know, he has kind of stepped up. A couple of really good wins, good company in UAE too. Pretty much doing a lot of it on his own, and you know, so let's see. But I really do think that there has to be a plan A, and that's it coming into a sprint like this. And I know sometimes teams will go with kind of 2 sprinters just in case someone gets blocked out of it, but I think in this case they have to stick to a plan. And Milano having ridden yesterday in a very kind of difficult race, and 2-time winner Ackerman coming in here, I would think that they may go with Ackerman today.
He is the penultimate rider. Normally sprinters, they have of course riders in front of them, but also one behind them in a formation like this. Why is that, Brian? Why is there? We do understand why there's riders in front of them, but there's always one behind them as well.
Well, sometimes they call it a sweeper, someone that just makes sure that nobody gets your wheel. If you think that you've got one of the fastest finishers, everybody will want to grab your wheel, so they'll have someone just kind of keeping everybody off the wheel. But in this case, sometimes a sprinter will sit 4th in line with 2 riders behind them. It's just a case, well, it's just looking after that sprinter. What you want to do is give him an easy ride to the finish. You see Tim Merlier, he's in the peloton in the Belgian Champions jersey. There's a lot of riders round about him. Someone might knock him to the right, to the left. It's always a little bit kind of nervy. While at the front, UAE Team Emirates are not even kind of touching their brakes. They're nice and relaxed. Everything going well for them. So, you know, it's about not only the kind of physical side, but the mental side of just being relaxed coming into the sprint.
Matthias Vacek, one of the 4 riders of Trek Segafredo. They started with 5. One already abandoned pretty soon, and so they're down to 4. With Thibaut Nys. And a little bit of an attack. This looks like Etienne van Empel, the Dutchman. But he sits up pretty fast.
The pace is just a little bit too high. It's what can you do? Your Korotec may not have a good enough finisher, but you want to be recognised. You want to put the team, the jersey, the sponsors in front, get mentioned, and that's what they're doing. I think by the looks of things, he is actually the only Korotec rider in this front group.
Etienne van Empel, yeah, could be. A man who got a medal at the Dutch Championships called steyering, which is basically racing behind a pacemaker, a Bredene, with a little bit of a contraption behind it with a metal bar, and you have to stay as close to the wheel as you can. I do remember that in Germany it was a pretty popular pastime, steyering. They probably have a German word for that as well, but they do 200 laps for 50 kilometers, and yeah, the fastest man wins, and he was 3rd.
Yeah, it used to be quite popular in Britain as well, in the track.
Helicopter wash. On Wednesday we had a restaurant with a helicopter pad, but that was a 3-star Michelin star, 3-star Michelin restaurant, off van Klevert. So yeah, with menus up to 700 for the menu alone. The clientele can probably afford a helicopter. Imagine taking a helicopter to go to a restaurant. Pretty outrageous.
Well, we organised that a few years ago for Philippe Gilbert when he came over to the Braveheart Fund. We took him up with his fiancée at the time and took him to a nice restaurant.
Yeah,
everybody
but
thought, who's this VIP? And then I walked out the helicopter with him, and they thought, oh.
There was a lot of disappointment.
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry, Brian. Just pulling your leg there. Formation there at Boasson Hagen of the Total Energie team, together with Mansin. You already mentioned him. 2 of the riders already abandoned. Dries van Gestel, he didn't start, and Jason Tesson was involved in an early crash. So there's not a lot of the riders left, but most of them, I think all of them, are actually in this first group with Boasson Hagen and Mansin and Janière. Yeah, all 4 of them are actually here. So Boasson, Hagen, Janière, Mansin and Matteo Ferchi. Good job by the small team here to make it to that first group. Focus there on the face of DSM. A little bit of a mix there of their World Tour team and their continental riders, including Sean Flynn, part of this lineup. Sam Welsford, Anderson, Patrick Eddy, the Australian. On St. Patrick's Day, would be nice to have a result from Patrick Eddy. And Tim Naberman is the team of DSM. We don't have the Irish champion here, sadly, because his team had to pull out.
To detail there, because normally in that corner they go shooting on the pavement there, especially getting into this kind of narrower part, which is just before the finishing line. So it's nice to see the organisers have actually kind of blocked off that kind of pathway for the riders, because that just gets very, very chaotic.
Also moving to the front is a name that you might not be familiar with of the Volker Wessel's team, Koen Vermeldvoort. He's been around for 14, 15 years. He's in third position there. Exactly. He's in third position there of that little train of Volker Wessels. That's the blue socks and the black and blue jerseys. He won the Ster van Zwolle, which is the opening of the Dutch cycling season a couple of weeks ago. He's a very prolific winner when it comes to the amateur scene, races like Bredene, Normandy, but also the one-day races in the Netherlands. And I think he can have a top 10 in this field, Koen Vermeldvoort. He's 34, has a part-time job with clothing brand Callas in the Netherlands, and the rest of the time he rides his bike, and very successfully so. He never really made that last step up to the absolute pro level, but he's still enjoying himself and finding himself at the front of the bunch with just under 12 kilometers to go.
Well, that's the important thing, isn't it? Enjoying it. I always say to the youngsters, just have fun, enjoy racing, because you know mentally you'll be in a good place.
Yeah, he's got a team that is dedicated to him in a race like this. Of course, Timo de Jong, one of their riders, was in that breakaway, taking a little bit of publicity there for the team led by Tom Velers. And you might remember him as the lead-out man for Marcel Kittel at the Argos Shimano pre-Sunweb DSM days. One of the best lead-out men of his generation, leading Kittel to 8 Tour de France stages, something like that. Well, the final lap now for our peloton, with still Team Emirates at the front, with former winner Pascal Ackermann. Last year he won ahead of Hofstetter, Tim Merlier, Sam Welsford and Gerben Thijssen. Gerben Thijssen is in this peloton, Brian.
That's good news for Intermarché, and I think they've been quiet, looking after him. He is one of these riders that's capable. He's already had a nice win this year in the sprint final, so he's already should have that confidence. But it's what you've got left in the tank, because a few of these riders, as we know, have been involved with crashes, a bit of chasing. Wasn't as chaotic as it was yesterday, but still the team Emirates, the UAE team at the front, and everybody knows what they have to do. How much have you got left in the tank? DSM are still there in the black, so let's this fight begin in the last 10 kilometres.
Yeah, the pace will be pretty high in these final 10 kilometres of the Bredene Koksijde Classic. It's the 4th year that it's under this name. In previous years it was called the Hansamer Classic. It's been promoted to a race in the Pro Series, so the second level of racing below the World Tour, just like Nokere Koers, for example, and yesterday's race Grand Prix Bredene. So 3 big races in a row. Nokere Koers on Wednesday, Bredene yesterday, and Koksijde today. A lot of points on offer, but we do see a lot of gaps on the start list of riders. Most teams had a group of riders doing all 3 of these races. Yeah, and we had some crashes, illnesses, so we do see some gaps on our start list, sadly.
Yeah, I don't think Lotto Destiny and the Red are finished yet. We may see something happen, but it's always going to be very difficult to stay away. Many of these teams stay here in blocks of a few weeks. I know we did that in the past. They set up camp in a hotel. Most of the riders stay. Some riders kind of fly in, fly out again. But for, especially over the kind of classic periods, you kind of stay in this part of the world, making life a lot kind of easier to come to these races.
And now it's up to Team DSM. All of the riders still in that first group. So we're looking at Tobias Lund Andersen, Patrick Eddy, Leon Heinzke, Sean Flynn, Tim Naberman, and in that peloton is still Sam Welsford, their fast man, looking for another win in his rather successful season already.
Well, this is the fight into this right-hand corner when it narrows down a little bit, and getting a good position here is key, and that's why we're seeing the race into it. You have to say that UAE Team Emirates have used up a lot of their firepower and been kind of pushed out of it. Israel, Premier Tech coming up, and they look as if they'll be first into this right-hand corner. Lotto Destiny, are we going to see an attack from that rider in second place? I said the lap earlier, if something was going to happen, it's going to happen after this right-hand corner.
Well, looks like everybody gets through that corner in one piece, but yeah, of course, after a corner like this, the peloton is completely stretched out. They have to avoid that bunch sprint at Lotto Destiny. Look like Liam Slock here at the front. And disturbing the chase, the front of the bunch just a little bit. We had some nice collar blocking going on there. All the teams nicely grouped together, but that tight right-hander was making it difficult. Yeah, the entire Entermarché Circus Wanty team is still at the front, Brian. So that is Dries de Poter, Julius Johansson, Laurens Rex, Baptiste Plankaart, Boy van Poppel as the lead-out man, and Gerben Thijssen as their sprinter. All 6 of them are still there.
Well, good numbers there, but very important now, and that's what we're seeing. Björk just come to the front. He knows that if the pace drops, then riders may attack, and he just wants to come to the front and do a little bit what he did yesterday. Just keep the tempo moving at the front of the peloton now. Keep UAE Team Emirates in control of this.
Past the giants there that you see in many places in Belgium, and in full pace through the dunes of the North Sea coast here around the Koksijde. Of course, also home to one of the most famous cyclocross races this year, early January in Koksijde. And of course, home to the busiest and craziest World Cyclocross Championships in recent history. 60,000 people in the dunes of Koksijde. 6.8 kilometers to go, and with these turns, yeah, it's really difficult to move up. We do know that UAE Emirates are at the front. The same goes for Team DSM. We saw that Entermarché was a little bit further back, and the same goes for the team of Soudal Quickstep.
Well, I was just about to say, when was the last time we mentioned Tim Merlier, the Belgian champion? It's been almost, nearly half an hour or something like that. So he's obviously doing a good thing, just trying to recover. He does have, Ethan Vernon to help him. That's saying if he's up for it and he's not too kind of knocked about. But then again, on that second bike change, the chase he had to do to come back, you would think that he was up for trying to win this race again. But they're not hanging around over 50 kilometers an hour already.
Too fast.
So this is getting interesting. Everybody trying to stay as close to the front as possible. But I think the key moment I pointed out just before that right-hand corner, before it narrows down, where they've put the cones up to stop them going onto the bike track on the right-hand side. I think that's going to be one of the key positions. Make sure you get good position on there, because it does narrow down. And like you say, that right-hand corner, if you get someone in front of you, then you're in with a good chance of winning the race.
Yeah, but it also means that there's at least 8 teams who want to go into that corner in either first or second place. We're still in Oost-Duinkerke on our local lap. There's our shrimp fisherman again. And his big, bulky Belgian horse. All the way at the back, Frederik Dwersnes, and the rest of his team with Stian Friedheim, Gutmestad, Bendixen, Urianstad and Halvorsen as the dedicated sprinter there. The entire team of UNOX at the front, followed by the brigade of Intermarché, Circus Wanty. We have Team UAE Emirates, and now we're looking for the national champion of Belgium. I might be a little blind, Brian, but
behind
where is
DSM.
He? Behind DSM.
Behind DSM.
Thank you.
In the black.
Also moving to the front is Team Novo Nordisk. They're also racing here with the other Kopecky brother. And also Hentala, Irvine, Kustor, Perron, Keurens and Pippen. And now it's about getting to the front to try and get to position. Looks like there's four riders and Tim Merlier of Soudal Quickstep still at the front. So Tim Merlier well surrounded by his teammates, but this is a very tricky part. Everybody's trying to get to the front on this wide road, and when the road starts to get narrower, something has to make way.
Yeah, that's the difficulty you've got. 4.5 kilometres to go. Everybody knows that they're in a big wide road. This is an opportunity to move up, but the speed is high because they're trying to stop riders move up. They want to get a good position into that right-hand corner where it does narrow down. And you know, UAE Team Emirates on the left-hand side have done a lot of riding. We haven't really kind of mentioned too much about the boys in yellow and red for UNOX, but you know, they have got some good numbers. Lotto Destiny coming up as well. They've only got 3 towards the front. DSM being pushed into the peloton a little bit, so this is the key moment that you want to try and stay near the front, but you will burn up a lot of your teammates.
Yeah, most definitely. The man from the breakaway, and of course Jonas Ricard. He's going to finish his first race back, but we want to get back to the front right now where all the action is happening. The motorbike behind the peloton is not going to give us some action. Now it's up to Total Energie. Well, they tried to get to the front, but that was a little bit of energy wasted there by the man of Total Energie. This is Brent van Moer at the front for Lotto Destiny. They might go to a sprint with Rudiger Selig, I think, the man from Germany. Who's the fastest.
That does look as if that's what they're trying to do. So Lotto Destiny, and you know, they know that Tim Merlier had a rough ride today. It's all about positioning, and Selig, very good lead-out man and very capable of kind of going long. It's all about positioning into this first right-hand corner where a lot of the cones are. So it just goes to show you that UNOX were at the front on the right-hand side. They've been swept away. They've been dragged into the peloton now. And now for the first time, Intermarché on the left-hand side have come up in the fluorescent yellow. They do have numbers, as you already mentioned. Gerben Thijssen is their sprinter, already a win this year and looking for his second.
Yeah, pretty impressive display, but we still have 3 kilometers to go. It's still UAE Emirates now with Mikkel Bjerg at the front. We have Ryan Gibbons there as well, Molano and, of course, Ackerman and Oliveira. Those are the riders there at the front now for UAE Emirates. They haven't really lost any of their riders so far and are doing a stellar job at the front. They're also trying to position Edward Teuns there for Trek Segafredo. He's on the wheel of Emils Liepins there on the left side. A lot of shoulder barging going on there. Everybody's trying to get to the front. Tim Merlier, he's a little bit further back at the moment, Brian.
Yeah, you just have to remain patient and hope it opens up. It's very chaotic now. The pace was high, and then you get some of this road furniture, but everybody trying to get into this right-hand corner in a very, very good position. And Intermarché come again. They've come once, they were pushed out, coming again on the right-hand side, but it does look as if UAE Team Emirates started to deplete in numbers. Only 2 riders in front of Ackerman now. Oh.
On the right side of the road, on the wheel of one of his teammates, it might be Bert van Leerbergen, is Tim Merlier. He is moving to the front right now with his teammate, indeed, Bert van Lerberg, and also Ethan Vernon part of that. Emils Lipins getting to the front, one of the Tour de Titema Unibet riders going into this roundabout. Of course, it's a very tight corner. After this roundabout, the peloton is going to be completely elongated again. And then, of course, in the final 1.5 kilometers, it's going to be so difficult to move up. And Tim Merlier finds himself in a second part of the peloton. He has to move up again. At the moment, it's Intermarché at the command.
It is, but kind of ones and twos. And Gibbons there, this is one of the riders that went left at that roundabout, finds himself on his own, and will take no part in the rest of the race. His day is over. But at the end of the day, very important to get into that position in that right-hand corner in a very good position. But Ryan Gibbons on the right-hand side, he's got Milano in front of him, and Ackerman is the third rider. So it does look as if UAE Team Emirates are going with Ackerman today, fighting in the middle of the team of DSM with Welsford in the black. Gerben Tyson is there, but yeah, getting a little bit chaotic now. And Tim Merlier, if he's been pushed back now, will be wanting. He's just picked up on the left-hand side there. But when it opens up, he'll have to try and kind of dart towards the front to get a good position into this final right-hand corner.
Yeah, he's got full confidence in Bert van Lerberg. They're really childhood friends, but he looks to be a little bit further back, and a chaotic sprint occurring here in the final of the Bredene Koksijde Classics. We're waiting for that final turn now with Sam Welsford in absolutely prime position. Same goes for Gerben Thijssen, for Pascal Ackermann. He's won it twice already. Pascal Ackermann into the final corner in second place on the wheel of his teammate, and then we are making our way to the finish. Tim Merlier, he is really far back. He's way too far back. We're going to see a sprint with Pascal Ackermann for his third, or is Sam Welsford getting across there? Gerben Thijssen to the middle. I think it's going to be Thijssen.
Well, it was a wee bit close there, but you could see the UAE Team Emirates rider, Milano, almost put his hands in the air, but Thijssen,
I think it's Thijssen.
It looks as if he came through the middle there to take that.
Well, he rewards the stellar work in the final kilometers of the Intermarché Circus 1 team. Oh, that was a pretty exciting sprint. And Tim Merlier, I think he ran out of steam due to the chase that he had to do.
Yeah, I don't think it was the steam. I think it was far too way back in that final right-hand corner. He was out of position. Like he came out onto that main road, Lerberg had to go very quickly, but yeah, that was a really tight sprint. Really good lead out there from Milano for Ackerman, but Ackerman just couldn't fight off the challenge there from Thijssen. Thijssen is on his wheel, but in sixth place you see the black jersey of Welsford, so perfect lead out from Milano for Ackerman, and Thijssen just kind of lays off a little bit there. Ackerman maybe a little bit early, but look at Welsford coming down the right-hand side. Sit in the saddle there for Gerben Thijssen. Out the saddle again. Okay, the speed of Welsford, but Gerben Thijssen, perfect timing. I just think Ackerman went a little bit too early there.
With Taminio and Marechko, the two riders of Alpecin de Koning, also in that top 5 in 4th and 5th place. But, well-timed sprint there by Thijssen. And a really big gear there.
About positioning, banging the bars for Ackerman. He had it laid on a plate for him, but just couldn't finish it off. But Thijssen takes that one for Intermarché. But Welsford, he was the fastest in that last 200 metres there. But it just goes to show you that, if he was in third place, potentially could have won it. He was in 6th place and had to make up a lot of ground, and unfortunately he ran out of roads. But you can see Milano just coming across the line. He thought that Ackerman had got it, but this man done the job today. We never really spoke too much about Intermarché. They kept it quiet. We did mention Gerben Thijssen quite often with a win, just beating Caleb Ewan by millimetres in the race this year. But that was a bigger win margin there over Ackerman and, of course, Sam Welsford. And this team this year already has been on fire.
Yeah, the big one is going to be tomorrow in Milan-San Remo with a dual captain. Lorenzo Rota has been on great form so far. And, of course, Biniam Girmay is going to be the first rider from Africa winning a monument. Well, Gerben Thijssen with a really great win. Don't need a photo finish for this one. A win for Intermarché Circus 1 team. Yeah, discussing what happened here. Sean Flynn is the man with 65. Sam Welsford, of course, also Leon Heinschke. But he's happy. The 24-year-old from Genk, which is not the same as Ghent, because it's in the province of Limburg, and that is to the east of the country. A man who has won on the track as well, been on the podium at the Junior Track World Championships. We have seen him in the 6 days in Ghent. But a pretty solid win here. Ola will be back in the studio for the first time this season for the breakaway, and commentary will be with Rob, Carlton, Robbie, Adam and Daniel Lloyd. So a big day of cycling tomorrow, Milan-San Remo. And also don't miss on Sunday the 7th race of the Women's World Tour, Trofeo Binda, in beautiful Sitilio in Varese in Lombardia, because that's always a very exciting race again with Denny Rowe and Marty McDonald. A lot of cycling coming up. Sunday, Brian and I will be back as well from the Pays de la Loire. And of course from Monday, 7 days of racing with Remco Evenepoel, with João Almeida, and luckily also with Ben O'Connor in the Volta a Catalunya.
Just looking at Milano there coming across the line, and you have to think, I can understand why UAE have decided to go with Ackerman here, and he came close but he didn't win. You know, you want one of your sprinters to, all your sprinters to be winning and gaining that confidence, but I think it may be backfired on them today. I really do think that maybe if they'd gone with Milano, he would have been putting his two hands in the air. I'm so pleased for this man, of course. He was there and thereabouts last year, and you know, we saw this from Olaf Koy last year, breaking into the ranks, and I think Gavin Tyson is doing that already this year, what Koy did last year. But UAE tried to control it all day. For me, Milano potentially could have won that, but I can understand why UAE have decided to go with Ackerman to try and, you know, kind of build his confidence, because we say it all the time, sprinting is about confidence.
It's his 5th win for Gerben Thijs. He already won the Grand Prix Champy-Montserrat, that contested photo finish, that pixelated affair last year. The Gooikse Tour de Pologne, the Tour of Poland, 2nd stage, and his first win was only in May last year, his first road win in the 4 days of Dunkirk, which in reality are 6 days, but as a cycling fan you know that.
Gerben Thijssen, het was niet grote prijs Montserrat nipt, maar het school weer niet veel. Hè? Wist je onmiddellijk dat je gewonnen had?
It was not as close as in Montserrat, but it was not a big gap. But I do think that the difference was pretty clear today. Molano had a fantastic lead out, really fast. And I really had to try to get on the wheel of Akkerman. And when Pascal started the sprint, I think I can get past him.
Ik zag op 100 meter van de meet, dacht ik, kom,
ik ga gewoon alles geven. From the race, I'm just going to give everything, all my frustration.
Al die commentaar over die overwinning,
from all the comments of that sprint in Montserrat, whether I did win or not win, it's all bull, etc. And it was a little bit of a middle finger to all those comments, and this is my 2nd win of the season, and it's a great win.
Wacht met het wiel van Akkerman te komen, bewust?
Ja,
and you waited really long to get into the wheel of Akkerman. Yeah, Molano had a really fast lead out, and I really had to go really deep to get onto that wheel. And I knew that I could get past Akkerman, and I feel absolutely wonderful. Winning again, and the entire team worked for me, and everybody said everything is going to be for Gerben for that bunch sprint, and I had 5 riders and who really give everything for each other. They did everything, they delivered me in a perfect place, a fantastic job by my teammates. And I show again that I do have a really fast sprint today.
Oh, fucking happy. I mean, I was a little bit disappointed about Nokere. I didn't say that I could beat Tim there, but I was there also in a super good position, and then they crashed in front of me, and there was no way out. So I was really disappointed about Wednesday, and then today also in the last lap I said in the radio one more time, like, guys, let's do one more time all for me. I think I can win, and yes, it's amazing. We're gonna celebrate it tonight, and yeah, this is amazing.
Many congratulations. Proficiat, Gerbert.
Yeah, he shows again that using the F word here in the Netherlands and Belgium is far more common than you in the UK or the US or Canada might find offensive. But yeah, it was pretty clear what he thought about today's win. Gerbert Thijssen wins Bredene Koksijde Classic. I do think, Brian, that a lot of these Belgian and also Dutch riders are not really aware of how offensive some words might come across in other languages, in other countries. And yeah, that you just don't say these things in front of a camera in other countries.
Well, it's all too common these days. You know, I even get it when, you know, my boys say it, and I don't like it myself, and I tell them that. But, you know, it's just part of the world we live in. But, yeah.
This is our top 10. Gerbert Thijssen ahead of Pascal Ackermann, Sam Welsford, Lionel Taminio, Jakob Mareczko, Rudiger Selig, Molano in 7th, Sean Flynn, a great 8th place for him, Christopher Halversen and Edward Teuns in 10th place for Trek Segafredo. The result of the Bredene Koksijde Classic, not a third win for Pascal Ackermann, but a first for Gerbert Thijssen. His first road win, it was in May last year, and he's now already at 5, including one at World Tour level. And there was a little bit of frustration in that interview because of all the commentary from the media, from the public, and from Caleb Ewan himself, contesting whether he actually won the race in Grand Prix Champy-Montserrat or not.
Third victory here, not yet. Can you describe the sprint, please?
Yeah, I think my team did an amazing job today from the Camelberg on. We had the race full under control, and we had also on the crosswind we made everything right. And yeah, also the lead out was perfect, and I'm really, really unhappy that I couldn't finish it off because it was such amazing work, especially after yesterday. It was actually a perfect race, and yeah, I'm unhappy to not win today.
Were you guys trying to not let Tim Merlier come back to the peloton?
I mean, we didn't look what happened. We didn't knew something about the crash. We just heard afterwards. We had a plan to go for the crosswind sections. We went for the crosswind section. We had a gap to the other guys because we had just 30 guys left, and then we had to continue. And later on, we heard about that Merlier was involved in the crash, and we didn't knew about the situation.
The lead out from Molano was impressive. How hard did you have to fight to come over Molano?
I mean, the fight was not in the end. It was already before, because I don't know why, but many cyclists use the bike pass. It's not allowed. We take the control and close the left side, and they still pass us on the bike pass. And yeah, I came completely to the back and had to sprint up again. So I did one sprint after the roundabout. I had to sprint another time to come back. And yeah, the last sprint was already before the corner, and yeah, Molano was fucking strong today, and I'm really, really happy to have him in the team, and I'm looking forward to a race together with him again, and next time I will do a lead out for him again.
What's our strongest feeling right now? Happy because of the good shape you're in, or disappointment because of that second place?
Both. No, I mean, I'm super, super happy about my shape. I was so unlucky the last days with crashes, punctures. I never came to the finish or was able to fight for the win. Today was actually the first time this year I was able to fight for the win, and I'm looking forward to the next week. I think I'm super, super happy about my shape. You can see it in the little hills, and yeah, I'm looking forward to next week.
Congratulations and best of luck.
We're just going to add Germany to the list of F-word users. Yeah, sorry for the people taking events. We just can't bleep out these interviews. I'm sorry. It's early morning in America and the end of the afternoon in Britain. But yes, the sprint, and yeah, everybody was praising Molano, and just like you said, Brian, he could have done this himself. But of course, you have to make a decision before a sprint.
Yeah, you have to, and it was clear that they had to do it. There's no way that you can have two sprinters going in there, and I really do think that, you know, Milano putting his hands up here, if he was given the nod of sprinting here, that he would have been putting his hands up. Super lead out, super fast, and it just concretes what Gerben Thijssen said. I really do think that, you know, if Milano was sprinting there, I think UAE would be winning again. But I can understand why they've gone with Ackerman. He's won here twice. You want to give the interview of Ackerman, you want to give each other an opportunity, but the way that Milano's sprinting at the moment, if he was given a nod today, then I really do think
it seemed to me that you guys were a little bit too early on the front. Is that right?
Yeah, possibly. It was a very hectic final, as you saw in the last couple of K. Lots of changing of the front and a big washing machine, you could say, in the middle. Yeah, we got a little bit caught out, and then we were stuck in the mix, and then we came late, but unfortunately it was a little bit too late. I had some speed in the final there, but I think I needed another maybe 10 more metres to the line would have been nice. But you know, happy with third. I think I hit the last corner, maybe 7th wheel, so for that to come third, I think I'm pretty happy with. Form's good, shape's good, so yeah, I think on to Bredene next.
You probably rode the fastest sprint of them all.
Yeah, maybe, but unfortunately it's not about who's stronger, it's just about who's the smartest and who has the best position. So, you know, you take it like a lottery almost. It's really hard to get these finishes right, and hats off to Gerben and Pascal. They rode a really well final, and yeah, happy to get a third again and then keep battling.
Like you said, your shape is in a good form. What are your upcoming events?
So I go on to Bredene next, which will be the next big sprint goal, and then after that onto Scheldeprijs, which I had some success there last year. So yeah, really keen to get stuck in and, you know, round off this kind of Belgian March block really well.
Maybe with another victory in one of the upcoming races.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, super hungry for it. I think I've had a really good start to the year, and I'm just trying to, you know, just keep rolling that wave and just be consistent as possible and just try to do the best I can. Best of luck in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Really great analysis by, an honest analysis by Sam Welsford. I was thinking about the Milano-Ackerman thing. Remember that final stage of the Vuelta last year where Milano was supposed to do the lead out for Ackerman and then won the stage himself. Of course, that is also still something that might be floating around the team.
If you've got two sprinters, you need to look after two sprinters. Can I just apologise to the people there for that interview, that the fact that Welsford didn't say the F word.
That was good.
So hats off to the Aussies. But yeah, it's very difficult to look after a lot of sprinters in the same group.
We're going to see the highlights of today's edition of the Bredene Koksijde Classics. Our breakaway of 4 with Andreas Schoeman, Thomas Joseph of the Tartaletto Isorex team, Thomas Kopecky of Tour de Titema Unibet, and Timo de Jong of Volker Wessels. A little bit of a counter-attack there from the Intermarché 1T team. And then we entered the Moeren, the wind-swept zone in the Westhoek in the west of Flanders. Not enough wind today, but sadly we did have some crashes. One of the riders going down is the absolute top favourite, Tim Merlier, and sadly also crying on the deck in pain is Victor Kampenaerts. He's off to hospital. I do hope that the damage is relatively okay, but he was in a lot of pain. Tim Merlier, he's being brought back to that first group. Then there's a bike change, probably changing back to his race bike again, his race setup, and then finally makes his way back to the peloton. UAE Team Emirates, we heard from Pascal Ackerman that they were not aware that Tim Merlier was in that group, but yeah, well, I don't think that is true. The team sports managers, they have televisions in the car. They knew that Tim Merlier was there. But going into the final here in the streets of Koksijde, that very tricky final, and you have to be into that final turn in the first 5 riders. In first place is Molano, in second place is Ackerman. We also have in third place Gerben Thijssen, and in 6th or 7th place even Sam Welsford. And then it's a lot of ground that you have to make up. Starting his sprint right now is Pascal Ackerman. On his wheel is Gerben Thijssen. Going on the outside is Sam Welsford. And then they're lining up all together, and through the middle it's a win by Gerben Thijssen. His second of the year. And he is, as he said, trying to give a little bit of a comment back after all the rockers we had on that contested win in Montserrat, that pixelated photo finish, and Caleb Ewan even going, I think, to the ECI to contest that win/loss. This was pretty clear. We didn't need a pixelated photo finish for the win here by Gerben Thijssen, a man who started his career on the track and made the switch to road cycling only just recently, and proves yet again he's one of the fastest men in Belgium and in the cycling peloton.
Op een festival van onze snelle mannen, een festival van onze sprinters. We hebben 3 topsprinters op het podium. We gaan beginnen met de man die op de 3e plaats is geëindigd.
And here we are with the podium, with our usual array of senior men, Brian. The sponsors, of course, of this race. So important. The local dignitaries, the sponsors making this race possible. Sam Welsford in 3rd. He was 4th last year, 3rd this year, so it's an improvement. But he's looking forward, of course, to Gent-Wevelgem next Sunday next week, and of course the Scheldeprijs at the beginning of April. There's more to come for Sam Welsford. Super strong man. The runner-up, Pascal Ackermann, after his win last year and in 2019, he finds himself on the podium for the 4th time in his career, because he was also on the podium in 2018. He's had all positions so far, 3rd, 2nd and twice in 1st place. But today, there was one guy faster, and that is a man from Belgium. Another win for Intermarché, want hij... It's been a pretty successful start to the season for the Belgian team. 8 wins already, with Rui Costa, of course, with Gerben Thijssen, with Biniam Gremay, and with Kobe Goossens, that double on Mallorca. The pretty impressive 2 solo wins that the young man from Belgium had. So, 2nd win for Gerben Thijssen for the team this year. Tomorrow they will be after the big prize in San Remo. Well, flowers, but also gift baskets, Brian. Wonder what is going to be in the gift baskets. It's always a highlight to see what the gift baskets. Maybe some beer from the Westvleteren Abbey.
De burgemeester gaat zo meteen ook wel een pakket mogen uitdelen, maar ook de mensen die de start fantastisch geregeld hebben daar in Bredene met onze burgemeester.
Looks like they get a blanket.
I was on the podium. I was on the podium in Belgium, and once got a bunch of towels.
Oh, lovely. And a horse. I think there's one of these fishermen on the big, bulky Belgian horses, the statue that he has there. Sadly, no beer on the podium today. But we do have a good podium here with Sam Welsford, Pascal Ackermann and winner Gerben Thijssen. Thanks for watching. Do tune in tomorrow for Milan-San Remo. The breakaway starts at 8:45 British time, 9:45 European time, and then half an hour later for the neutral start of Milan-San Remo for you to enjoy. Get yourself some snacks and be ready for a very long but hopefully very exciting day of bike racing with a tailwind running into San Remo. That's going to change some of the tactics at the tactical meetings tonight before the race. We've got some absolute superstars at the start line. Wout van Aert, Pogacar, we have Mohoric, of course, Mathieu van der Poel, Gremay, Caleb Ewan, and I'm probably missing a whole lot of riders. But do tune in tomorrow for the first monument of the season. And before you know it, 2 weeks from now, it's the Tour of Flanders. The week after, it's Paris-Roubaix. 2 weeks after that, Liège, Bastogne-Liège. And of course, at the end of the year, in October, the race of the falling leaves, Il Lombardia, the 5 monuments of cycling. A little bit of help there for Gerben Thijssen.
How many cyclists does it take to open a bottle of champagne?
I think it is going to be successful after all. We're going to leave this broadcast with a nice little sticky shower on the podium. Well, on behalf of Brian Smith, thanks for watching the Bredene Koksijde Classic. My name is José Been, and Brian and I will be back on Sunday.